Yeah, man, my name is Jimmy. I come from Jamaica, bro. We're gonna sing Mato Vu. Oh, 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 oh. Mato Vu, oh Halecha, Yaakov. בשכנותיך ישראל, מה טובו אוהליך יעקב. משכנותיך ישראל. This comes from the portion of Balak. Bilam thinks he's gonna curse Israel, but really in the end, his plan derails into nothing and it ends up blessing Israel. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. Bilam thinks he's bad, he's really good because he blessed Israel instead of putting them in a bad mood. He did not curse them, he did bless them. He blessed them with these words. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. Yo, Bilam did not curse Israel, he ended up blessing them with the following words. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. He talked to a donkey, beat it up. He beat it up, but the donkey still loved him a lot and it taught him a lot. But he ended up being bad. He never turned a new leaf. He ended up being a villain forever and ever and ever and ever. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. Everybody listen, gather around. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. Listen to those words. Research them. The translation in English, they are good. Good words Bilam spoke, but he meant to curse Israel. He ended up blessing them instead. The donkey helped a lot, but he still ended up being bad. מה טובו עליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל. מה טובו אוהליך, מה טובו אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל.
Shavua Tov, everybody, and thank you for joining us to Shabbat Bereshit that is coming to conclusion. I'm Rabbi Shapira. What a special Shabbat we had together. If you have had a chance to be with us Shabbat morning, I did make a big announcement about Avat Ami International sending a shlicha to Korea. We're counting the days, the numbers of days until Michelle Kim can be sent out as part of Havdalah International to begin this great work in Korea as we are preparing the launching of the Torah Center in Korea. I want to remind you that this morning was so special. We translated it to Korea and to English. We sometimes don't understand how much more there is that we are doing aside from just the English channel. The Korean, the Chinese is coming online, French, Italian, Portuguese, German, Dutch, Indonesian. It's an important part of what we're doing here at Havdalah International, and you're part of this great work here in the last days, and I'm asking you to consider supporting us. As you can see, I'm cold. We are still in the midst of this epic move, the rabbits and myself and Noach, asking you to continue to pray for us. We have tremendous amount of work to do, and of course books to write and events to do, synagogues to build, yeshivot to build. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk to you about the game plan for the next couple of weeks so you can up your prayers and hopefully up your support as well. None of this is easy. It's all very complicated. We are going to be heading to Colombia here in the next 10 days for what is going to be an epic event in Bogota, especially in the middle of very tough situation there in Bogota, in Colombia. They took out and removed all Israeli ambassadors, and basically the nation went literally against Israel in a major way. And I think we need to really be praying and interceding for the remnants over this nation. So we're going to the middle of the ice storm, bring a Sefer Torah for this epic release of the Jewish DNA of Romans 11, the Spanish release, along together with Welcome Sefer Torah ordination taking place. We are really excited about this, but it's not easy, and I can tell you it is not cheap either. So your prayers and support, financial support, makes it all a possibility and a reality. Thank you for supporting this. Next Shabbat, we're also going to be with the Spanish community together. Now, one thing you can do if you speak Spanish, especially, and you want to be part of this historic event in Colombia, you could go today to Romans, www.romansdna.com/Bogota, and you can sign up for this. It's going to be absolutely epic teachings for the last days. I know it will be, and I know it will bless you immensely and tremendously, and we want it to be a great blessing for you. So make sure you sign up and you register and be part of this great move of God. Also, this week, starting tomorrow, we're going to be launching the brand new set of programmings, brand new Rega Be'Ivrit season, and then it's led to a new program called Otiyot Geula in these last days. We are asking you to really pray. Those are amazing new programmings that coming upon you. Next Shabbat, I'm going to be communicate all programming for those days ahead of us. We're really excited about 5786 and the work that is being done here in Havdalah International. Please continue to pray. Please continue to support. Please continue to be part of us and continue to believe and understand what Hashem is doing in those last days. I hope that you'll be blessed. Pastor Matt is in the house today. He's going to talk to us about Bereshit, and I hope that this will be a tremendous blessing. God bless you, of course, and Shavua Tov.
הנה אל ישועתי אבטח ולא לבך כי עוזי וזמרת אדוני ויהי לי ישועה ושבתם מים בששון ממענה הישועה לאדוני הישועה למך ברכתך סלע אדוני צבאות עמנו משגב לנו אלוהי יעקב סלע אדוני צבאות אשרי אדם בוטח בך אדוני הושיע מלך יעננו יום גואנו ליהודים הייתה אוהב ושמחה וששון מקגן תהיה לנו עוז ישועות עשו בשם אדוני אקרא Lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bo'eh pri hagefen away free hagefen lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Bo'eh minei besamim Bo'eh minei besamim Lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 la la lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam bo'eh מאוהי האש bo'eh מאוהי האש lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai lai la la lai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המבדיל בין קודש לחול המבדיל בין קודש לחול בין אור לחושך בין אור לחושך בין ישראל לעמים בין יום השביעי ששת ימי המעשה ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לחול. Shavua Tov, everyone. We are singing Eliyahu Hanavi together. As we know, during Pesach we go to the door and look for Eliyahu, and behind Eliyahu Hanavi we are looking for Yeshua ben David, Mashiach ben David. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Tishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu תשבי אלי אליהו הגלעדי במהרה יבוא אלינו עם משיח בן דוד במהרה יבוא אלינו עם משיח בן דוד במהרה יבוא אלינו עם משיח בן דוד במהרה יבוא אלינו עם משיח בן דוד. שבוע טוב, 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 שבוע טוב.
Shalom and welcome to Pearls of the Torah. I'm Moreh Matan, Pastor Matt McKeown. I'm so glad to be joining you from our Beit Midrash at our location in Florida as we open up the Torah anew for a brand new Torah cycle going all the way back to the beginning of Genesis to Parshat Bereshit. I'm so glad to be with you and so glad to be broadcasting here on this new Torah cycle. Let me just give you a bit of background and frame our approach for this year for the Torah cycle. We are going to take sort of a three-step method where we look at the Peshat and the Drash level of the Torah portion, the plain and midrashic expositional level of the Torah. And then we also will look a bit at the Remez and Sod level, the more mystical or deeper level of the Torah, and then also tie this to Chassidut, as Rabbi Shapira likes to do. So things that are a little more hidden, a little more mystical, a little more under the surface. And then, of course, as always, we tie everything to our Messiah, Yeshua. Everything is framed around him. And so we have a messianic integration, which we will have each week, and a practical application of how Yeshua as Messiah reframes or illumines the prior layers of Torah understanding. So at each stage, we will engage the text, the classical sources, as well as Scripture itself, and then open a door toward the Messiah. We're not going to try to force Gentile Christian categories onto Judaism, but rather seek Yeshua as the faithful Jewish fulfillment of the deeper ideas in the Torah itself, both in the written Torah and in the oral tradition. So I'm very excited to be with you once again as we have re-rolled the scroll all the way back to Parashat Bereshit. If you've not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and like this video and leave us a comment so the algorithm will pick us up, and also share this teaching on your social media platforms as well. We thank you for doing that. Let me give you a bit of a structure as to where we are going today in our study. Part one, we're going to look at the foundation, the in the beginning, and the wisdom at the center of creation. We're going to look at the Rashi, the Ramban, the Midrash Rabbah, and other early sources. We're going to look at the divine image and the Torah as a blueprint. In part two, we're going to look in a little bit more of a Hasidic or Kabbalistic way as we look at the idea of the hidden light, the concealed light, the Or HaGanuz, and look at the more mystical readings of Bereshit. We're going to look at a bit of the Zohar. We're going to look a little bit at the Arizal, the idea of the contraction, the concept of reduction of Tzimtzum and Tikkun. We're going to look at, as I said, the concealed Or HaGanuz, the concealed light, and the vision of the Baal Shem Tov as a part of this hidden light concept. And then in part three, we're going to look at the Messiah that is hidden in creation, Yeshua as the light of Bereshit. We're going to have an integration of the mystical and prophetic aspects of the Torah and the threads that go through that tie us to Yeshua HaMashiach. And we're going to look at some New Testament citations on that confirm and fulfill this idea. And then, of course, in part 4, we have our application and reflection, where we're going to live within the drama of creation and restoration, personal tikkun as well, and then our closing blessing. Speaking of blessing, let's give our opening blessing for studying the Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'zivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to be engrossed in, to be in the business, in the esek of the Torah. So part 1, as we look at the foundation, the in the beginning, and the wisdom of creation. So in Genesis 1:1, we start with this very famous, probably the most famous verse in all the Bible, Genesis 1:1. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, we're going to look at Rashi and the wisdom embedded in Bereshit. Rashi opens his Torah commentary not with grammar, but with wonder. Why begin creation, or why begin the Torah with creation rather than the first mitzvah? This is the famous question that Rashi asks. If the Torah is a book of commandments, why not give the first commandment in the first verse? Now, he answers that this verse teaches divine sovereignty. Because we can prove by this statement that it is God who created the heavens and the earth, then that means they belong to him. And he can decide who gets whatever he gives. So since the whole world belongs to God, he may give it to whomever he wills. This is Rashi's comment on Genesis 1:1. Now, Rashi also adds a bit of grammatical nuance here. He says that Bereshit does not necessarily mean at the very beginning, but it can imply Bereshit, with Reshit, that is, with the beginning. What is the beginning? The rabbis tell us that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and so wisdom is at the beginning. So he draws on Reshit Chokhmah from Psalm 111:10 about the beginning of wisdom. So thus he says that creation is not random, it's not just matter making, but it is Chokhmah. It is God's world founded on divine wisdom. So with wisdom, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, of course, if we're asking a Jewish question, a Gentile question would be, what is this wisdom? The Jewish question would be, who is this wisdom? And of course, we're going to look at that in a bit. Now, that particular midrash, where it says in Bereshit Rabbah 1:1, it says this in a midrashic way: God looked into the Torah and created the world. After all, wisdom, This midrash implies that the Torah itself is Reshit, the beginning. It is the blueprint, Sefer Tzorah Elokit, the divine mind manifest. So the Ramban, or Nachmanides, he comments that in Bereshit bara Elohim, the word Elohim refers to the power of all powers. The power of all powers. Koach Hakol, the emanating force that contains all potential being. This is the Ramban on Genesis 1:1. So in that very first verse of the Bible, the very first verse of Genesis, we encounter this eternal question, and that is creation an event in time, or is it an unfolding of divine wisdom into space and matter? Now, this, of course, is a discussion that our dear Rabbi Bernstein of blessed memory would love to have. He was a big fan of talking about these things, about space and time, and being inside or outside of it. We also, in this section, have this idea of the Torah being the blueprint of creation. So let's look at Midrash and philosophy. Bereshit Rabbah 1:1 also elaborates with this parable. And I love parables. The word in Hebrew for parable is mashal. We love these different times where a mashal is used. And we see, it just reminds us that Yeshua is right at home in Judaism. He didn't invent the idea of a parable. Parables are throughout Judaism. Here is the parable in Bereshit Rabbah. A king who wished to build a palace consulted the architect's scrolls. Likewise, God looked into the Torah and created the world. The Torah pre-exists creation. It is the mind of God expressed in letters. What a wonderful way to put that. The Zohar later echoes, the Holy One looked into the Torah and created the world. This is in Zohar 1:134a. Therefore, Bereshit can be read with the Torah God created. With the Torah God created. Because if the beginning, if the wisdom is the Torah, then we can translate not just in the beginning, but with the beginning. You could also translate it by the beginning. By the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, who is the beginning? Well, we know, and we will get there a bit later. Now, the Rambam in Moreh Nevuchim 11:30, he interprets creation as an emanation from God's wisdom rather than a mechanical act, that it's an emanation. Divine will manifests in law and order. Maimonides rejects mythic chaos but affirms purpose, a rational cosmos expressing chokhmah, supernal wisdom. So one of the things I love about Judaism is the different opinions of the different scholars and rabbis, that one tends to be a little more rational and logical, one tends to be a little more mystical. And I think it's wonderful for us to sort of digest the whole corpus of Jewish commentary with regard to the verses in the Torah and the narrative therein. Thus, at the Peshat and the Darash level, Bereshit reveals that God is one, yet acts through divine attributes, what we call the midot, the attributes of God. Also, we could say that the Torah is the spiritual DNA of reality. We know it is through the letters of the Torah, through the letters of the Hebrew language, the Lashon HaKodesh, the Holy Tongue, that God had the building blocks of creation. Also, we see this idea of human beings being Tselem Elohim, that we are meant to mirror that wisdom in moral and creative life. It's said that we are made in the image of God, but as we have been taught by Rabbi Shapira, this idea of Tselem Elohim, it's not necessarily image, it's actually maybe better understood as shadow, that we are the shadow of God. And I always love talking in my teachings when we talk about Tselem Elohim, this idea of my shadow does what I do. It automatically does it. If I move, it moves. And that's how we need to be with Hashem. We also can see in our next point the human as the image or crown of creation. So Genesis 1:26 and 27 says, Na'aseh Adam B'Tsalmenu Kidmutenu. Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. In Midrash Bereshit Rabbah 8:5, it imagines angels debating before creation, some for and some against. There is this opinion, by the way, of when God says, let us, a Christian would say, well, that's the idea of Trinity. A Jewish person would say that God is consulting the heavenly court, where we will see later on, if we go into a mystical, more Kabbalistic understanding, we can talk about a being known as Adam Kadmon, the primordial Adam, that we could associate with Mashiach, that is the blueprint for Adam, and in a mystical way, that God is consulting this agent through which he will create, which is very much akin to John 1:1 in the Gospel of John, about the Word being with God and being God. So in the Midrash there, God proceeds, truth will spring from the earth. The Ramban notes that Betsalmenu indicates that intellectual and moral capacity to rule is what's going on here, not physical resemblance. Although, again, if we want to get a bit mystical, even though Adam Kadmon is not said to be a physical being, this being is said to have a face, limbs, a body, and in a way, we are like a physical blueprint of that. Sforno, Rabbi Ovadia Sforno, adds that humanity is unique in perceiving truth and pursuing righteousness. So here we have a paradox, and paradoxes are very much at home in Judaism. We are finite, yet we carry an imprint of something that is infinite. It's a paradox. The human soul, the neshama, receives the nishmat chaim, the breath of life, that we become a living soul in Genesis 2:7. The Holy Zohar, in Zohar 2:100b, says that this nishma is a spark of the Ein Sof, breathed into clay. Thus the Torah paints the human as a microcosm, dust from the earth, yet animated by divine light. Wow. Next, we look at the fall and the fracture of wisdom. In Genesis 3, we have the bad news. We have the fall of man. Humanity misuses the divine wisdom that was given and eats of the fruit of the Eitz Hada'at Tov Va'ara, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So Chazal says that the sin was not merely eating, but the impatience, the seeking revelation before readiness. The Or HaChaim that we studied all last year on Genesis 3:6 teaches that the serpent enticed Chava, or Eve, to rush into knowledge prematurely, not trusting divine timing. So in a mystical way, this act disturbed the harmony of the 10 sfirot that are pictured in the Tree of Life diagram. It inverted the flow of Chokhmah and Binah, mixing good and evil. Ramban notes that their eyes were opened means that they were aware, they had an awareness of duality. They lost innocent unity. So already in Bereshit, creation and the fall mirror the mystical pattern of emanation and fracture that later is talked about in more mystical forms of Judaism as the Shivirat HaKelim, the shattering of the vessels. We talk about the shattering of the vessels, the scattering of the sparks that we are supposed to now seek out and collect. We also have a messianic foreshadowing in the idea of the seed of the woman. In Genesis 3:15, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and it says there that the seed of the woman, he shall crush your head. Midrash Tanhuma in Bereshit 7 says that this is a continual struggle between the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara within humanity. And it says, though, there that in a messianic reading, if we're to look at this through a messianic lens, this idea of the Zera Ha'isha, the seed of the woman. A woman doesn't have a seed. A woman has an egg. Man has a seed. But there's this idea of Zera Ha'isha, the seed of the woman. This points to an ultimate redeemer. The apostolic writings in the Brit Chadashah in Galatians 4:4 and 1 John 3:8 declare that Yeshua came to destroy the works of the adversary. Thus, the promise of restoration is sown in the soil of creation itself. We have all the way back in the garden this idea of this restoration, this rectification, this tikkun, this redemption that is going to happen. So, as a summary of part 1, we have Bereshit, which could be interpreted as with wisdom God created. We have this idea of Torah being pre-existent wisdom. It's the divine blueprint. We talked about how humanity bears the divine image, which includes moral and creative responsibility. Also how the fall fractured creation's harmony and introduces duality and concealment. We're going to talk about the concealment of the divine light in our next part. And the messianic seed is promised from the beginning. So restoration is already anticipated. And this, of course, brings hope to the story. As we move on to part 2, let's look now at the hidden light from a more Hasidic reading, a more mystical version or a vision that we can have of Bereshit. The Zohar, Bereshit as the concealed beginning. And Zohar 1:15a, it begins with these words, Bereshit, this is the concealed wisdom in which all things are contained. It is the first of all, and it is called the beginning, the Reshit, the world by which all is sustained, or the word by which, rather, all is sustained, this word Reshit. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai describes Bereshit as the point of concealed wisdom, the Reshit Chochmah Setimah, emanating from the Ancient of Days, in which the structure of the Sfirot, as we talked about the tree of life, corresponds to the Keter, or the crown, that top there of that diagram. In this reading, Bereshit bara Elohim is not simply in the beginning God created, but with the concealed beginning, the supernal wisdom, the divine, brought forth Elohim. That is, Elohim itself, that attribute of God that corresponds to the name Elohim, is itself the first emanation of the infinite, known in more mystical forms of Judaism as the Ein Sof, the infinite. The Zohar continues in Zohar 1:16a. When the king began to think of creating the world, a flame of darkness issued from the hidden recesses of infinity, forming a tiny spark. From that spark burst forth a radiance that illuminated the world. Now, this language encodes what later people like the Arizal and his followers will systemize as the idea of tzimtzum, hitpashut, this idea of contraction and expansion. Also, hishtal shalut, the contraction, expansion, and cascading worlds. We're going to look a little bit into not only Luria, not only into the Arizal, but we will look at the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe. This idea of tzimtzum, this idea of contraction, we've talked about this before in the Tanya, the idea that God is so infinite that he had to contract himself a bit just to make a void in which to create. That literally, it's difficult for us to think of something in the terms of not space. Everything in our reality is within space. And so it's difficult for us to think of something not within space. But if you can imagine that God is so infinite, think of it in these terms. It's almost like there's no room to create something because he's taking up everything. Now, again, I know I'm speaking in terms of space, but only because that's the only way that we can explain it. But it's almost like God is taking up so much space that he must contract himself to create a void in which to create matter, if that makes sense. So Rabbi Yitzhak Luria talked about this, the idea of tzimtzum, the infinite or the Ein Sof contracting to make room for something that is finite. This is not really spatial, it's ontological, which, again, I know I'm speaking in terms of space, but it's difficult to put these things into words any other way. God hides his light, conceals his divine light to allow something else to exist. We also have this idea of hitpashut, that into that vacated space, a measure of divine light, or kav, enters, forming worlds. We also have this idea in this particular strain of Judaism, the idea of Shevirat HaKelim, the shattering of the vessels. The first vessels that, if you took our course in our yeshiva called From Jesus to Yeshua, we talk about the world of Tohu. And the worlds of Tohu cannot contain the light, and so they shatter. Remember this phrase, Tohu Vavohu, formless and void. It's chaos. It cannot contain the light, and so it shatters, scattering the nitzotzot, the sparks, the divine sparks. And then there must be a tikkun. This is a sort of recreation and rectification through new vessels. This is in the world of tikkun, that is balanced and harmonized through human and divine cooperation. Remember, it's a Jewish idea that we partner with God to make a rectification of the world. We don't just count on God to do everything. We have a job. We have a responsibility. And so we partner with the divine in order to do this. So as the Ari, as we call him, the Arizal, the one of blessed memory, the Ari, the lion, as he teaches in Etz Chaim 1:2, this process explains why creation is both divine and broken, luminous and dark. The shattering was not failure, but it's like a prelude. It's the possibility of moral choice that comes about because of this. And because we have moral choice, then there can be redemptive participation. It's difficult for us to understand, but God had to set it up to where sin could come into the world. He had to. Because in order for there to be a choice, a moral choice made to follow God, we had to have free will. In order to have free will, sin has to exist. We have to choose this over this. And that cannot exist without the idea of good and evil. So it all has to happen. It's all part of the redemptive plan. The Ramak, Moshe Cordovero, in Pardes Rimonim 3:2, says that in Bereshit, he sees the seed of this dynamic. From the point of wisdom emanated understanding, and from understanding flowed mercy and severity, and thus the world was built through balance. We've talked about this before, the right side and the left side, the side of mercy and the side of severity, or the side of judgment. But we have this balance, and the divine attributes, the midot that we mentioned earlier, they come into an equilibrium and sustain all existence. So in this more mystical language, from a Hasidic point of view, Bereshit encapsulates its reduction, the concealment of the infinite, the shvirah, the fracture of the vessels, and the idea of tikkun, the repair or rectification that comes through integration. So the drama of the cosmos begins here. Let me also talk about the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light. Genesis 1:3 declares, Vayomer Elohim Yehi Or, Vayehi Or. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. Yet the sun, moon, and stars do not appear until day 4. We've talked about this many times. So what then was this primordial light? So the Midrash and Bereshit Rabbah 3:4 says, the light that was created on the first day shone from one end of the world to the other. But when the Holy One foresaw the deeds of the wicked, he concealed it for the righteous in the world to come. This is the Or HaGanuz, the hidden light. The Zohar in Zohar 131b says, that light was hidden within the Torah, so that whoever studies the Torah by night draws upon it. I like that idea of studying the Torah by night and you gaining a light of the Torah. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov and Likutei Moran 121 says that the Or HaGanuz is accessible in moments of dveikut, that is clinging to God through prayer and mitzvot, and also by clinging to your rabbi. We cling to our human rabbi, but we also cling to Yeshua as our ultimate chief rabbi. Remember, Rabbi Shapira has taught us that the idea of dveikut in modern Hebrew is a concept of like super glue. You're like really gluing yourself. So the hidden light is, or the light is hidden within our deeds, waiting to be released through holy intention. The Baal Shem Tov adds that the Or HaGanuz shines through simple faith. When a Jew serves God with joy, even in darkness, the hidden light bursts forth. This is from Keter Shem Tov. So the act of creation is not merely physical, it's an ongoing revelation and concealment of divine light. Now, again, let's look at this concept through a Hasidic perspective, the world as divine speech. So the Magid of Mezerich, in his commentary on Bereshit, explains every moment God speaks the world into being, through his 10 utterances, that every moment he's continuing to speak the world into being through the 10 utterances. These correspond with the 10 words, by the way, that we sometimes call the 10 commandments. If speech were to cease for an instant, all would return to nothingness. So again, all of us, we don't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So what the Magid here is saying is that it's almost like God is continuing to speak the world into existence. And if he were to stop, it would all fall apart. It's very interesting. This reflects the Arizal's teaching that creation is continuous, this idea of hit hadshut tamid. So Bereshit bara Elohim is not past tense. It is present. God is creating. Now, Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi in the Tanya, also known as the Baal Tanya or the Alter Rebbe, He says in part 2, Sha'ar HaYichud V'ha Emunah, chapter 1, he says, the divine speech that brought forth the heavens and earth into being stands forever within them to sustain them. As it is written, the word of our God stands forever. Isaiah 48. Thus, creation is a continuous expression of divine speech, the infinite contracting into language, letters, and even the laws of nature. Every atom is a syllable of the divine word. I love that. I love that. Every atom is a syllable of the divine word. Now, Chassidut draws from this the lesson of two concepts in Hasidic Judaism that we talk about quite a bit in our ministry. This idea of hitbodedut and hitbonenut, of contemplation and solitude, of getting alone with God. There is this idea of corporate prayer that is missing, at least in the modern Protestant church, but is very much at home in Judaism and in maybe other forms of Christianity. Of course, in the Catholic Church, you have the Book of Common Prayer, and in other Christian traditions, you have a corporate prayer model. But mostly today, in modern Protestant Christianity, there's this emphasis on personal and private prayer. Although there is the Siddur in Judaism, there is this corporate prayer, of course, the daily times of prayer. But there's also this idea of these two concepts, hitbodedut and hitbonenut, contemplation and solitude, getting alone with God. And through this awareness of God's immanence, we find unity in diversity. The world is not a veil over God, but God spoken in time. Now, if we want to look at this as far as the cosmic drama in Bereshit, I have this chart that I will show you here. So stages 1 through 5. Stage 1, this idea of concealment. The Kabbalistic term here for this is tzimtzum, the contraction. The infinite withdraws to allow creation to happen. Then number 2, emanation or hitpashut. The divine light extends throughout the sphirot. The shattering or the shvirat hakelim, the vessels break and the sparks scatter into matter. The idea of repair in stage 4, the concept of tikkun, rectification. Humanity participates in restoration through mitzvot. We've got to gather those sparks. We've got to dig past the klipa, the shell, to find the spark of kedusha in everything. And then this concept in stage 5, the hidden light, the or haganuz, the concealed illumination for the righteous, held for the world to come. Creation, therefore, is not merely a beginning, but a continuing process of divine revelation and concealment. So every act of holiness is a moment of tikkun olam, raising the sparks back to their source. That is our job. We've got to do tikkun nefesh. We have to do that repair in ourselves, but also we have this job of tikkun olam, of making a rectification of the world. It's our job. So the Arizal says in Pri Etz Chaim, Sha'ar HaKavanot 1, the purpose of creation is that the lower realms become a dwelling place for the Most High. That's what we see in the end of the book of Revelation. We see that at the God coming to dwell with man, that the lower realms become a dwelling place for the Most High in the book of Hitgalut. This anticipates what later Chassidut will call Dira Betach Tonim, a dwelling for God in the lower worlds. So let's prepare to look at part 3, the messianic integration that we have here. As we move from the mystical into the messianic dimension, consider this pattern. Bereshit begins with the hidden light concealed for the righteous. The Zohar sees that light as the radiance of Messiah. Zohar 2, 146a says, the light which the Holy One created on the first day is the light of the Messiah. And we know in the Midrash Rabbah, it says that the spirit that was hovering over the face of the deep when it was tohu vavohu, that is the spirit of Messiah. So the world's repair, or tikkun, is completed through the revelation of that light, through the agency of Mashiach. So in this frame, Yeshua the Messiah is not an alien concept to Jewish mysticism, but the embodiment of its goal, the restoration of divine light within creation. After all, Yeshua is the light of the world. Let's look at part 3 here, the Messiah hidden in creation, Yeshua as the light of Bereshit. The Zohar in Zohar 2, 146a declares, the light which the Holy One created on the first day is the light of Messiah. When this light is revealed, the world will be healed. So this is striking. Long before any type of Christian creed or confession, Jewish mysticism connected this primordial light with Mashiach. The light hidden for the righteous in Genesis Rabbah 3:4, in the Zohar, in the Zoharic imagination, the radiance of the ultimate redemption is the illumination that will restore harmony after the shattering of the sparks. And this is the Messiah, the one that will heal everything. The Arizal in his teaching continues this line of thinking that the tikkun of creation is completed only when the Adam Ha'elyon, the supernal Adam, is revealed. This concept of Adam Kadmon, the primordial Adam, the primordial man, the primordial Adam, is the divine prototype through which all light flows into the Sfirot. Now again, Adam Kadmon is not a physical being, but has these attributes, that have their manifestation in the physical with us. Again, body, limbs, face, hands, feet, things like that. All the world, as it says in Eitz Chaim Hechal, Adam Kadmon 1, the Rabbi Chaim Vital says all the worlds are included in Adam Kadmon, and all emanations flow through him. Again, everything that was created through the Word. This Word is a person, and I think we can equate the Word with this idea of Adam Kadmon, of this idea of this primordial Adam. So this primordial man is not a human in flesh, but it is a pattern of divinity revealed in form. It is the blueprint of the human soul. So from a messianic perspective, it becomes this astonishing idea in the apostolic writings, the Brit Chadashah, that Yeshua is described exactly in this language. That through him, all things live and move and have their being. Through him, everything came into being. Everything was created through him. That he is that divine light put into human form. That he is the Word made flesh. So we have this idea of Yeshua as the divine image, the Adam Kadmon revealed. Paul's letter to the Colossians in chapter 1, verses 15 through 17 says that he is the image, he is the eikon of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, and in him all things hold together. That's exactly what mystical Judaism says. Here is the apostle not inventing a new cosmology. He is speaking within the framework of Jewish mysticism. The image of the invisible God parallels this idea of Tselem Elohim and echoes the doctrine of Adam Kadmon. So in mystical terms, in Kabbalistic terms, the Ein Sof, the infinite, manifests through Adam Kadmon, the primal channel of divine light. The Sfirot, these emanations of God, flow through this form into creation. And Yeshua is portrayed as that divine image made manifest in history. The Mimra de Adonai, the Word by whom creation came forth in John 1, 1 through 3. The Gospel of John, in the prologue there, mirrors Bereshit. In the beginning was the Word, the Logos, the Mimra in the Aramaic. And the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made through him. This is classical Jewish thought. Creation through the Devar Adonai, the Word of God. The Targumim, the Aramaic paraphrases, often translate the Lord, acting in the Word, as the Mimra d'Adonai, the Word of the Lord. Of it being, the Word of the Lord being a being through which God acts in the physical space. An agent of the Lord. Thus, when John says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, he is proclaiming that the hidden Mimra, the same creative wisdom through which God said Yehi Or, has become visible and personal in the person of Yeshua. We also see this idea of the contraction and the incarnation, the tzimtzum. Rabbi Luria's tzimtzum describes this divine contraction or reduction, God withdrawing to make space for the world. And Paul echoes this mystery in Philippians chapter 2, verses 6 through 8. Though he was in the form of God, he did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but he emptied himself, taking on the form of a servant, being born in human likeness. Now, in the Greek, this concept of him emptying himself perfectly parallels the Kabbalistic idea of tzimtzum, the infinite light contracting into being finite. So just as the Ein Sof withdraws to allow the world, so the Messiah humbles himself to enter the world. Creation and incarnation are the twin acts of divine self-limitation that are motivated by love. Yeshua's humility becomes the mirror, the human mirror of the divine humility in creation. Through him, the hidden God becomes knowable without ceasing to be infinite. Now, the Ari teaches that the tikkun, or the repair, occurs when the broken vessels of creation are regathered, that the sparks, the nitzotzot, are elevated through holy action. In this messianic mystery, we can see that the death of Yeshua on the tree is like the ultimate tikkun. The brokenness of the world, the consequences of the shvirah, the breaking of the vessels, is assumed by the righteous one. In his suffering, the sparks of divine image scattered throughout humanity are reconciled. Paul again says, God was pleased to have all of his fullness dwell in him, and through him to reconcile all things to himself, whether on earth or in heaven, making peace through the blood of his cross. So this is not only an atonement for sin, it's a tikkun, it's a cosmic restoration. The Zohar says in Zohar 1:26a, when the Holy One desired to bring tikkun to the worlds, he appointed the Righteous One the foundation of the world, the tzaddik yesod olam. The righteous are the foundation of the world. We have this concept, but we can also look at this as the Righteous One, the ultimate tzaddik. Adonai Tzidkenu is the foundation of the world. So in this mystical correspondence, Yeshua is that tzaddik, the sphira of Yesod, the foundation, the channel through which divine life enters creation. He bears the flow of life into the broken world. Now, let us look at an application and reflection. Living the light of Bereshit. How does this apply to our lives? We need to go from this mystical cosmology to calling. We have seen that creation begins with concealment, emanation, fracture, and repair. This is not only the story of the cosmos, it's the story of every soul. Just as God performed tzimtzum, he contracted to make space for creation, so too spiritual maturity means leaning on holy self-contraction. We must be like Yeshua's example, the ability to make space for others, to restrain ego, to let divine light flow through us rather than be blocked by self. The Hasidic masters call this bitul hayesh, the nullification of the ego's illusion of separateness. This idea of bitul, of self-nullification. We need to do that. Yeshua made this very clear. We need to pick up our cross daily and follow him. We need to die to ourself. That is this bitul. Rabbi Shneur Salman of Liadi, the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, writes in Tanya chapter 33, when a person contemplates that the whole universe is filled with his light, with God's light, there's no separate existence, and all is truly one, then he will be filled with joy and humility. Paul mirrors this movement in Galatians 2:20. I have been crucified with Messiah, and I no longer live, but Messiah lives in me. This bitul hayesh, in Messianic language, the self is not erased, but becomes transparent to the divine. It's not that the klippah goes away, it's that it becomes a klippah nogah, a klippah that is translucent, through which God's light can shine through. It's not a shell that blocks or conceals the light any longer. As the Ari taught that the purpose of this life is to raise the divine sparks embedded in material reality, every mitzvah Every act of compassion, every prayer, every time you give tzedakah, everything that you do with pure intent draws a spark back to its source. Every action has an effect on the entire universe. That is the true understanding from this Hasidic perspective. And Yeshua articulates the same when he says, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven." Our deeds of mercy, justice, and love are not moral performances. They are tikkunim, repairs of the fabric of creation. So when a believer forgives or gives charitably or comforts, he or she reunites the severed threads of the divine image. The rabbis say in Pirkei Avot, Avot 2:1, "Be mindful of a small mitzvah as of a great one, for you know not the reward of each." Do everything as if it's the big mitzvah that gets the big reward. Do everything. Messiah echoes this. He who is faithful in little is faithful in much in Luke 16:10. Faithfulness in small things releases hidden light. We could also look at prayer as a participation in creation. Zohar, in the Zohar 189b, it calls prayer the work of the heart, continuing creation through speech. So when we pray, we align our words with the divine speech that sustains all worlds. In Hebrew, the verb bara, to create, shares the same root letters with the word dibur, speech. Each prayer is a miniature Bereshit bara Elohim, the Word creating new reality. Yeshua taught this creative faith. Whoever says to this mountain, "Be removed," and does not doubt it in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it shall be done for him, in Mark 11:23. This is not magic. It's alignment with the ongoing speech of God. When our hearts are purified, our words regain creative resonance. So, Isaiah 11:9 foresees a time when the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of Adonai as the waters cover the sea. We long for that time. The Zohar reads this as the revelation of the hidden light to all creation. And Revelation 21:23 gives us a mirror image of this. The city has no need of sun or moon, for the glory of God gives it its light, and its lamp is the Lamb. That's that concealed light, which is no longer concealed. Baruch Hashem. The story that began with Yehi Or ends with Vayehi Or Olam, eternal light. Creation's circle closes. Bereshit becomes Shalom. In that day, Tzimtzum ends. The veil lifts, and infinite dwells fully with finite. Until then, every believer is called to live as a lamp of that hidden light, bearing the mystery of Bereshit into daily life. I want you to just quietly repeat with me, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. In the beginning, by the beginning, through wisdom, through the Word, who is Mashiach, God created the heavens and the earth. Let's end with this prayer. Abba, you created all things through your Word. You hid your light so that we might seek it. You revealed it in your Son that we might behold it. Make us vessels of your Or Haganuz, of your hidden light. And may our lives repair what was shattered, and may your glory fill the earth. B'Shem Yeshua Mashiachenu, in the name of Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. Thank you once again for joining me in this very deep and more exhaustive study today in Pearls of the Torah. I hope it was a blessing to you. Share it with your friends and family, and please contribute to this ministry so that we can continue the work that is going out. Thank you so much. May God bless you and keep you until we meet again. Shalom.
Yeah, man, my name is Jimmy. I come from Jamaica, bro. We're gonna sing Mato Vu. Oh, 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 oh. מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל. This comes from the portion of Balak. Bilam thinks he's gonna curse Israel, but really in the end his plan derails into nothing and it ends up blessing Israel. Matavu alecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Bilam thinks he's bad. He's really good because he blessed Israel instead of putting them in a bad mood. He did not curse them. He did bless them. He blessed them with these words. Matavu alecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Yisrael. Matavu alecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Israel. Yo, Bilam did not curse Israel. He ended up blessing them with the following words. Matavu ohalecha Yaakov Mishkanotecha Israel. He talked to a donkey, beat it up. He beat it up. But the donkey still loved him a lot and told him a lot. But he ended up being bad. He never turned a new leaf. He ended up being a villain forever and ever and ever and ever. Matavu alecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matavu alecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Everybody listen, gather around. Matavu ohalecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Israel. Listen to those words. Read Hashem. The translation in English. They are good. Good words Bilam spoke, but he meant to curse Israel. He ended up blessing them instead. The donkey helped a lot, but he still ended up being bad. Matavu alecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Yisrael. Matavu ohalecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Israel. Matavu ohalecha Matavu ohalecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Israel. Israel.